jacket, but I am still the same person, alhamdulillah. Inshallah, today we'll continue with the class that we left off. We're still talking about the story of Ali radiallahu anhu, and you have noticed a trend, an unfortunate trend throughout the Kholfaa. Abu Bakr, he died shortly after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Umar was martyred, Uthman was martyred, and so was Ali radiallahu anhu ajma'in. This shows us that Sunnat Allah fil khalq, the way that things often happen is when a person stands up for the truth, they will have people who oppose them. They will have people who oppose them. To such an extent that the ulama in Islam, they've said, if a person speaks the truth and he has no opposition whatsoever, then what he is speaking is not the truth. Because even the prophets, even the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they had opposition. Not only that, but as we've come to know, they had to sacrifice or give their lives up for that truth. So the story of Ali radiallahu anhu is not different. After the death of Uthman, you have this division within the Muslim world, within the Muslim Ummah. Ali, everyone agrees on to be the rightful ruler at that time. The majority, if not all, of the people, they give their bay'ah to Ali radiallahu anhu. And yet there are people who raise a valid question against Ali. And they say, as a condition, they say the first thing that you need to do is you need to go after those who murdered Uthman radiallahu anhu. And Ali stands his ground, and Talha and Zubayr radiallahu anhuma, they are very persistent in their request that Ali radiallahu anhu goes after those who are responsible for the death of Uthman. And Aisha radiallahu anha, hearing about the death of Uthman while she is in Mecca performing the Hajj, standing up for Uthman, who was a very beloved companion of the Prophet ﷺ and very close to him, she joined the side of Talha and Zubair and those like Muawiyah who were asking and putting it as a condition for Uthman, for him to make this his priority. Yet Ali knew that if he goes against these people or starts bringing people to account, it will cause more of a problem, and that the Muslim Ummah needs different priorities at that moment in time. This leads to matters getting out of hand, in the sense that people start taking sides. Now when this happens, there is a lesson. Sometimes it is possible for people to have two completely opposite views on something, and they will both be rewarded for their intention. This is a concept in Islam that is taught, that every mujtahid lahu nasibu, that every person, based on knowledge, but based on research, that if they come to a conclusion that they believe is the valid conclusion, then they will be rewarded, and the reward will be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet, the outcome can still be bad. You You might ask, how is it possible for a person to be rewarded for something and yet the outcome be bad? It is because in Islam we are told that the reward in action, in reality, there's two parts of the reward. A person is rewarded for the intention, for the niyyah, and a person is rewarded for the action. If the niyyah and the action are both correct, then the person's reward will be so much greater. However, if a person's intention is correct but the outcome or the action is wrong, then we say Allah will reward the person for their good intention but not for the action itself. So this is an important concept that some people they struggle with. At the same time, it is important to highlight here that in Islam it is not sufficient. We should not only rely on our intentions. Like Abdullah bin Mas'ud, he used to say, وَكَمْ مِن مُرِيدٍ لِلْخَيْرِ لَمْ يُصِبْهُ, that how many people have not intended to do good but have fallen short. Their intention was there, and they might be rewarded for their intention if it was sincere and it was for the sake of Allah. But they do not get that full reward because the natija, the result of their action, was something that was not right or something that brought benefit. So you have different groups. This is where the word Shia actually comes from. Shia in Arabic, it means ta'ifa, it means firqa, it means a group. So in the beginning, in the early days, those who supported Muawiyah, they used to be known as Shi'at Muawiyah. And those who would support Ali radiallahu anhu, they were known as Shi'at Ali. And this only meant groups. With time, this term started changing. Not only that, Ali and Muawiyah, they had their differences, and many of the differences were brought about through the messengers that people were mistranslating or misrepresenting what they were saying. When you would ask Ali, why did you leave Medina to go to Iraq, he would say, I only went for Islah, I only went to fix the situation. And if you ask Muawiyah, he would respond in the same way. Yet the people around Ali and the people around Muawiyah, they went into extreme. Especially some scholars mention those around Ali radiallahu anhu. They went to such an extreme that some of them started worshipping, and this is documented, they started worshipping Ali radiallahu anhu. And Ali, in retaliation, what did he do? He punished these people in the worst possible way. In some narration it mentions that when they started doing that, Ali burned them. When the other companions heard about this, they refuted Ali. And they said, this is haram. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ mentioned it in a hadith, saying that no one punishes by fire except the Lord of fire. In other words, as Muslims, if a person is facing, let's say, the capital punishment under Muslim rule, then burning a person, it is completely wrong. And that it shows another thing, it is that people sometimes make mistakes. Like Ali, for example, radiallahu anhu, he made a mistake in this issue. And as a companion, he is a companion, but he is also a human being. On top of that, this whole clash that happened amongst the companions radiallahu anhum ajma'in, like we mentioned in the past, it shows the humanity of these people. They were imperfect. They were people who were striving to be good. They were striving to do the right thing, to be like the Prophet ﷺ. However, they made mistakes, and this is one of those big mistakes. If you read through the seerah of the companions, or the Tariq al-Islam, the history of Islam, you find that many scholars, they don't really touch on this issue much. And there's a reason for that. Because from a Muslim perspective, this is a sensitive topic. When you approach it, you have to approach it with knowledge. You have to approach it with respect. You don't want to make the same mistakes that the people who were living that situation made. And what was that mistake? It was taking sides. It is easy now, looking back, to look at that situation and to say Ali was right and Muawiyah was wrong, or Muawiyah was right and Ali was wrong. But when you live through a fitna, when you hear different things coming to you or at you from many different places, it is very difficult to see the truth as it is. Unfortunately, what ended up happening was that these people who surrounded the companions, they took the opportunity to turn against the companions themselves. So they turned against Ali. Those who claim to be supporters of Ali, they turned against Ali. Those who claim to be supporters of Muawiyah, they turned against Muawiyah. Those who claim to be supporters of Amr bin al-As in Egypt, radiallahu anhu, they turned against him. So now, these people started plotting, and some of the scholars, they refer to them as Khawarij, because they went against the Muslim rule that was established. So they came up with a plot. What was the plot? The plot was to send assassins to the three main Muslim rulers of that time. So some of them went to Muawiyah in Sham. Another group went to Ali radiallahu anhu in Iraq. And a third group went to Egypt to assassinate Amr. Now, they succeeded in their plot against Ali radiallahu anhu. When it came to Muawiyah, they were unsuccessful. The day when they tried to assassinate Amr, scholars, they say that morning he was feeling sick and he appointed someone else, and because of that they could not get to him. This shows us or teaches us a valuable lesson. And the lesson is that a person can only be so good as the people around them. That in itself shows the importance of choosing the people who you befriend. We teach this to our children time and time again. We tell them, be around good people, choose good friends. But it is also important for us as adults that the workplace that you are at, the people that you associate with, the friends that you make, they have a huge impact on your character. And in turn, it defines who you are. This is why the scholars in Islam, in the past and present, they always say, if you want to know the reality of a person, then look at the people around them. You will be what people are around you. If people around you do not swear, use good language, are honest, truthful, then chances are you will be just like them. But if you look around and you see this person, he does not care about cheating, that person does not care about the language that they use, and so on and so forth, then that is a mirror of who you are as an individual. To conclude, we have reached the end of this short series. We see in the lives of the Kholfaa a great lesson, and that is that the message of Islam does not end with the death of the Prophet ﷺ. It shows that the responsibility of this message, it lies on each and everyone's shoulder. Once the Prophet ﷺ passed away, the companions stood up. The munafiqun, the hypocrites, they used to make fun of the companions once the Prophet ﷺ passed away. And they used to say, Muhammad mat wa khallaf banat. This is what they used to say. That Muhammad ﷺ has passed away and he only left women, no men. They don't know what to do now. But the companions, they proved them wrong. That after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, Islam went from strength to strength to strength. Every companion that took on the responsibility, not only did he fulfill it, but he passed on the torch to the next person in line. And we as a community, we need to follow in their footsteps. It is not about individuals. It is not about organizations. What it truly is about is doing your part in the here and now so that the future generations can benefit from it. Whether it is on the level of a community or if it's within your own private life. You sacrifice so much. You save your money, you work hard. Why? Because you want your children, their children, to have something once you pass away. You do not want to leave them empty-handed. Similarly, we need to have this concept for the Muslim Ummah. The vision of what will happen. Just one example, inshallah, I'll keep it brief. The masjid that we're sitting in right now. Why do you think we sit in a masjid as beautiful as this? We sit in a masjid as beautiful as this because of the vision of the people 20, 30 years ago. If they had not come together, if they had not worked hard for the sake of the community, then perhaps we would not have been sitting here in the masjid today. Similarly, we need to have that same vision. That 20, 30 years from now, we do not sit in the same masjid, but we keep increasing. Perhaps 10 years down the road, we have 2, 3 masajid. We have community centers. We have an Islamic school. We have all these things that the community needs and wants to see. And the other lesson from these stories is, once the Muslim Ummah turns against each other, then everything stops. All the khayr. We mentioned before the futuhat. And the Muslim world expanded, it exploded in its expansion. It was a little bit halted with the death of Umar because he was murdered and it caused tensions. But Umar was martyred by a person who was not Muslim. So it still had the unity of the Muslims. But once the threat came from within, and the threat came from those who claim to be Muslims, and they assassinated, they martyred Uthman, then everything came to an halt. So the lesson here, brothers and sisters, is we need to study our history, learn from it, not make the same mistakes. Yes, there is accountability. Yes, there is responsibility. But we also remember that whenever we see a problem, we try to be part of the solution and not just add to the problem. If all you do is mention the problem, then you are the problem yourself. But if you say this is a problem, how do we fix it? This is the mature way to go about it. So inshallah, with that we will conclude